What's up guys, welcome back to the Curvy Curvy. My name is Julie and on this channel we journey through creating the curated wardrobe of my dreams with these two hands. And today I have for you all a pattern review. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented on my community post about what kind of information is prevalent to you when someone is doing a pattern review. It really helps me to narrow down the ideas and the information that I'm going to include, just to be sure that whatever is in this video is relevant to you. So thank you. I'm going to be using the answers from that post as the basis for this review. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'll stand her over so you can see. Nice and clear, a little wobbly, wavy, whatever. So the pattern that I will be reviewing today is New Look 6461. I sewed this pattern in collaboration with Rochelle of Rochelle Handmade Designs for her Hot Girl Summer for New Look Patterns challenge over on Instagram, which is still going on. I forgot to link it in the last post, so I'll be sure to link it in this post. I will link her initial video where she introduces everyone, and in that video is linked everyone who is participating in the challenge, so be sure to check out that post and follow all of the lovely ladies, especially over on Instagram. I'm getting so much inspiration already for patterns that I failed to pick up, but now I'm on the hunt for. This pattern, New Look 6461, is rated easy, and I 1000% agree with that rating. It is not very difficult. There are not a lot of pattern pieces. The pattern includes 8 pieces in total. For the views that I made, I used 7 out of those 8 pieces. The only piece that I did not need, I don't know what that piece was, but there was one piece that I did not need. The pattern has 4 different views, so there are 3 views for the top and 1 view for the bottom. For the top, those 3 views, you get a tunic, you get a dress, and you get a cropped top. Now that crop top isn't a crop top that sits about your waist. The crop top falls at about the high hip area, so not cropped in the way that we regard cropped these days. As for the pants, it only comes in 1 view, which is a 3/4 length wide leg trouser with an elastic casing for the waist finish. This pattern only comes in a printed version, no PDF, no AO, nothing like that, and to my knowledge is still very much in print to this date. The fabric recommendations for this pattern include both wovens and knits. So for your wovens, it includes your lightweight wovens. That's going to be your charmeuse, your cottons, your linens, your silky types. For views A, B, and C, which are the 3 top views, so that dress, that tunic, and that crop top, you can also veer into the direction of lawns, voiles, and gauzes. For views A and B, which is going to be the tunic and the longer line shirt with the high slits, it also even recommends using something like a georgette, which I think would be so lovely for like the hot summer days that we're about to be embraced with. As for the knits, the pattern calls for more sturdy knit, so that's going to be a ponte, interlock, a double knit, or a French terry. For notions, this pattern doesn't require very many notions at all. It only requires you to have one package of single fold bias tape. I made my own bias tape so that it would coordinate with the fabric, and you also need 1 yard of 1-inch wide elastic. For sizes, this pattern comes in sizes 6 to 18. That is a bust of 30.5 to a bust of 40, a waist of 23 inches to a waist of 32, a hip of 32 inches to a hip of 42 inches. Finished garment measurements for the pattern only gives you 2, which I agree with. It only gives you the finished garment measurement for the bust and the hip. I agree. I think the waist measurement is negligible, especially since you're going to be using a piece of elastic on an oversized pair of pants, so you can fit that elastic to your waist accordingly. For the finished garment measurements, it comes with a finished garment measurement of a bust of 36.5 to 46 inches. That is 6 inches of wearing ease for the top. For the pants, the finished garment measurements are a hip of 36.5 to 45.5. That is 5.5 inches of wearing ease for the pants. I chose a size 18 for this pattern. My measurements are a 44, 37, and 47. And if you were paying attention, you would know that my measurements do not fall anywhere on that measurement chart, which brings us to the modifications. So the first way that I modify the pattern is just by modifying the seam allowance. The pattern calls for 5/8 of an inch seam allowance all around the entirety of the pattern, and I shrink that down to a 1/2 inch seam allowance. The next thing that I did was for the front and the back. I noticed immediately by looking at the pattern pieces that it was a smidge too narrow for like that more relaxed, not necessarily oversized, but definitely relaxed fit that the pattern envelope is going for. So I went ahead and I added a 1/2 inch to the center front and a 1/2 inch to the center back. Now, I didn't take into account that that 1/2 inch is being added along the neckline, which means that the neckline is going to be slightly wider on me in the front and the back than what the pattern called for. However, when I tried it on, per the fit that I got in the end, that was just fine, but it's definitely something to keep in mind if you're going to be adding width, where you're adding it to and how that's going to impact the fit. I didn't want to add it along the side seams just because it was easier to just create a line a 1/2 inch wide along that center front and that center back, because there was the room for me to do that already on the tissue paper. So it was a lazy adjustment, if I'm being honest. The next thing that I did was I created an arbitrary line somewhere along the crotch in the front and the back, and then I slashed and spread 2 inches to give me an extra 2 inches along the top piece of the front and the back. Now, not only would that increase my rise, but that would also give me extra room for like the fullness of my tummy and the fullness of my buttons. And I was pretty successful in that. One thing I will say is that I feel like instead of adding that 2 inches, I probably should have shrunk that down to about an inch and a half. The 2 inches was a bit excessive, and so it sits pretty high up on me. I'll grab the pattern piece and show you what that looks like. Okay, this is my pants piece, and as you can see, I just made a line in like on that crotch, not at this crotch line down here, because this is not gonna make any difference to what happens up here. So I made a line here, I slashed and I spread, and I added 2 inches there. The next modification that I made to the pants was I added 3 inches on the side seams of the pants. This was also excessive because what I did not take into account is that that 3 inches would equate to somewhere at about 5 extra inches of wearing ease in the pattern, give or take that 1/2 inch for seam allowance that I'm taking out. So I really should have only added maybe like 1.5, again, maybe 2 inches max, but 3 inches was a little bit excessive. And then everything that I did on this pattern piece, I did on the, like, this is actually the back. So everything that I did on the back pattern piece in terms of modifications, I went ahead and I did on the front pattern piece in terms of modifications. Now, for finishing the garment, there is, per Big 4 pattern instructions, they do not include how to finish your garment. So it usually just shows you like sew along those edges and then it moves on to the next step, with the exception of bias binding the top half to finish all of the neckline and the arm side. The top calls for there to be ties along the side. The tie pieces are pretty small for tie pieces. I feel like one of the things that kind of like brings down the, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, just like some, to me, in terms of like aesthetics, there's nothing worse than like a little tiny tie that kind of like sticks out and doesn't like fall nicely. And because the tie pieces are so small, they were like jutting out, they weren't like hanging nicely, they didn't have a tail on them essentially, and I just felt like it wasn't adding anything sophisticated to the top. So I cut off the ties and I left it open like this, and I feel like it's just a much nicer fit at the end of the day. Would I make this pattern again? Probably not, if I'm being honest, which is interesting. It's rare that I come across a pattern that I don't want to explore in some way again. However, this pattern is definitely one of those patterns. As for the top, it is a woven tank style top. I think it is interesting with the size, with the ties on the side. I think it was really, really simple to make, thus making it a very enjoyable sew. I like this top. This top that I have, I do intend to wear into style. I think it's gonna be a great piece in my closet because it is a linen lightweight woven tank, which just sounds so perfect for the summer months, but I don't see myself wanting another one. As for the pants, I also wouldn't sew these again, simply because I have a couple pants patterns at this point that are like these wide leg, breezy, elastic waist trousers that I definitely would reach for first and more frequently. I think that the width of the waistband is a little bit thinner for me. I prefer a 2-inch elastic waistband, or at least 1.5 inches, which is an easy modification. But like I said, I already have a pattern that has that 1.5 elastic waistband. I also would prefer some sort of pleating in the front, have a pattern that already has that. So I like these. They're really fun to wear. They were really easy to make, lightweight, breezy, simple. But again, I just don't see the need for another one of these in my wardrobe from this particular pattern. As far as resources for this pattern, I was surprised to find that there are quite a few resources available already on the internet, as this pattern probably has been around for quite some time. I found one sew along for the top. I found 4 pattern reviews on patternreview.com, and I found 1 blog post for the top. I will have all of those resources linked in the description box below. That link will be on my website as a blog post, because if I am going to have you click off of my video and go somewhere else, then you have to understand the business of YouTube. I have to, in some form or fashion, benefit from that. So if you are interested in those pattern reviews, I will have it linked below. That link will take you to a blog post where I will have all of the information that I have given you in this video as far as the pattern review, as well as the links to those other pattern reviews for this pattern and the one sew along for the top. That is going to be it. If you are interested in sewing this pattern, let me know what you think in the comments below. I know in the last video, a few of you told me that you picked it up during the sale, so I'm curious to know, after this pattern, are you interested in sewing it up? Until next time, stay beautiful, make great things. I'll talk to you later. Bye.